What happens when one of Hollywood's most loved stars sits down for what is supposed to be a normal morning show interview, only for the conversation to suddenly take a turn no one expected? The tension inside the studio grew so thick it felt almost physical, and what began as light, friendly talk quickly turned into something far more serious. Before we get into what actually happened, make sure you subscribe and leave a comment below sharing your thoughts on celebrity interviews that completely spiral out of control. Now let's get into the real story. The interview began harmlessly enough. Gayle King welcomed Jennifer Aniston to the couch with her familiar warm smile, and the audience applauded as Jennifer took her seat. The plan seemed straightforward. They were there to talk about Jennifer's newest project, the latest work from her production company, and maybe touch briefly on a few personal topics. Typical morning television material that audiences have seen countless times before. Gayle opened with an easy question. Jennifer, you've been in this industry for more than 30 years. How do you continue to reinvent yourself? Jennifer smiled, clearly relaxed in this familiar promotional setting. You know, Gayle, I think it's about staying curious. I've never really wanted to play it safe. Whether it's choosing a dramatic role or working behind the scenes as a producer, I'm always looking for something that challenges me. That's great, Gayle replied, nodding along. And speaking of challenges, you've been very outspoken recently about certain issues in Hollywood. I want to talk about that. Jennifer's expression shifted just slightly, a tiny change that most viewers probably missed, but it was there. Sure, she said. I think it's important to use whatever platform you have to speak out. Gayle leaned in a little, her voice still friendly, but now carrying a sharper curiosity. You recently talked about how women over 40 are treated in this industry. Can you explain more about that? Jennifer paused for a moment before answering. There's this widespread belief that once a woman reaches a certain age, she becomes less marketable or less interesting. Meanwhile, men in their 50s and 60s are still being cast as leading men. It's a double standard, and it's something we need to keep pointing out. I understand that, Gayle said, and then she shifted direction. But just playing devil's advocate here, couldn't someone argue that you've had an extremely successful career? You've worked consistently for years. Some people might say you're in a very privileged position to be making these kinds of comments. The word comments landed heavily. Jennifer's jaw tightened almost without notice. I wouldn't call them comments, Gayle. I'd call them observations based on real experiences. Yes, I've been fortunate, but that doesn't mean I can't talk about systemic problems. If anything, it means I have a responsibility to speak up for women who don't have the same platform. Of course, Gayle replied, but it was clear she wasn't done. Let's be honest though, you've earned millions of dollars. You're still getting major roles. You're producing your own projects. When you talk about the struggles women face in Hollywood, don't you think there's a gap between your experience and what most women go through? Jennifer's smile disappeared completely. She straightened her posture. I'm not sure what you're implying, Gayle. Are you saying that because I've had success, I shouldn't speak out? That's a strange argument. Gayle quickly shook her head. No, that's not what I mean. I'm just asking whether some of this could come across as, let's say, performative activism. It's very popular right now to talk about these issues. The word performative seemed to hang in the air. Jennifer's eyes narrowed. Performative? Gayle, I've been talking about these issues for years, long before they were considered trendy. And honestly, it's disappointing that instead of engaging with what I'm actually saying, you're questioning my intentions. Gayle raised her hands slightly. Jennifer, I'm a journalist. My job is to ask difficult questions. Viewers appreciate it when we go deeper instead of sticking to safe topics. There's a big difference between tough questions and being dismissive, Jennifer replied. You're basically saying that because I've been successful, my perspective doesn't count. That kind of thinking is exactly what shuts these conversations down. Gayle's face grew firmer. I'm not dismissing anything. I'm pointing out that when someone who lives in luxury talks about struggle, it can feel out of touch. Jennifer let out a short laugh without any warmth. So now we're criticizing my lifestyle? You're hosting a national morning show, Gayle, you're not exactly struggling either. Does that mean you shouldn't report on poverty or inequality? That's not the same thing, Gayle argued. I'm a journalist covering stories. You're a celebrity talking about your own experiences, and those experiences are shaped by privilege. Jennifer's voice grew louder, though still controlled. Do you realize how flawed that logic is? Women in Hollywood face ageism. Successful women aren't allowed to talk about it because they're successful. Less successful women can't talk about it because they don't have a platform. So who exactly is allowed to speak? Gayle shifted uncomfortably. You're twisting my words. No, Jennifer replied. I'm reflecting them back to you. I came here expecting a genuine conversation. Instead, I'm being questioned about whether I'm allowed to have an opinion. For a brief moment, Gayle's professional composure cracked. Jennifer, you're being too sensitive. Sensitive? Jennifer said sharply. That's exactly what women get told when they speak up. You're too sensitive. You're overreacting. You're being difficult. I've heard it all before, and I honestly thought you'd understand that. The studio was completely silent now. Even the audience seemed afraid to breathe. Gayle took a deep breath, trying to regain control. I think we misunderstood each other. Jennifer interrupted her. Misunderstood? You've spent the last 10 minutes suggesting I'm some out-of-touch hypocrite. I don't think there's an easy way back from that. Gayle's eyes flashed. That's not what I said. I'm trying to discuss privilege and perspective. Then let's really discuss it, Jennifer said. Why is it that when men talk about industry problems, they're praised as brave, but when women do it, we're accused of being performative? Why is my success used against me instead of being seen as proof that I know this industry? Gayle tried to respond, but Jennifer continued. I've been working in this business since my 20s. I've watched talented women vanish from screens because they aged out of roles. I've been told I was too old to act opposite men who were actually older than me. I've seen friends struggle while their male peers thrive. So yes, I will keep talking about it. And if that makes you uncomfortable, maybe you should ask yourself why. Gayle's jaw tightened. I'm not uncomfortable. I'm skeptical when celebrities turn social issues into branding tools. Branding? Jennifer repeated. You really think that's what this is? Hollywood knows activism sells, Gayle said. Being outspoken gets attention and keeps people relevant. Jennifer laughed bitterly. So no matter what we do, it's wrong. Stay quiet and we're complicit. Speak up and we're accused of chasing headlines. What would satisfy you? What would make advocacy real in your eyes? Gayle answered calmly. Maybe when it involves real sacrifice. It's easy to talk when you're still earning huge checks. Where's the action? Jennifer stared at her. You have no idea what happens behind closed doors. You don't know what roles get turned down, what money gets invested, or what battles are fought privately. But you've already decided the story. I'm asking questions, Gayle insisted. That's my job. No, Jennifer replied. Your job is to inform, not tear people down because you're cynical. Gayle bristled. You expected an easy interview. When I challenge you, you fall apart. I'm not falling apart, Jennifer said quietly. I'm calling out an ambush. Being asked about your statements isn't an ambush, Gayle said. It's accountability. Accountability? Jennifer echoed. This feels more like you chasing a viral moment. You don't question men this way. Don't make this about gender, Gayle snapped. How can it not be? Jennifer replied. You're proving my point. Women can't win. You're being dramatic, Gayle said. And there it is, Jennifer answered. Dramatic, emotional, sensitive. I'm done. Jennifer shifted in her seat and stood up, gasps rippling through the audience. What are you doing? Gayle asked. I'm leaving, Jennifer said calmly. This interview is over. Gayle stood too. We live. Exactly, Jennifer said, removing her microphone. I want people to see why I'm walking out. You're being unprofessional, Gayle accused. Jennifer laughed again. You questioned my motives, dismissed my experiences, and attacked my character, and I'm unprofessional? I asked valid questions, Gayle said. They were loaded questions, Jennifer replied. You wanted ammunition, not answers. My answers were evasive, Gayle claimed. No, Jennifer said. You just didn't like them. This isn't journalism. It's a hit job. How dare you, Gayle said. Then what do you call this? Jennifer gestured around the set. You wanted a moment. You got one, just not the one you expected. You think you're above questioning? Gayle challenged. I deserve fair questioning, Jennifer replied. You came with an agenda. The cameras kept rolling as control slipped away. Fine, Gayle said coldly. Leave if you want. This is about you avoiding scrutiny. Jennifer shook her head. I've handled scrutiny for 30 years. I know the difference between fairness and bad faith. You chose confrontation over conversation. I was doing my job, Gayle insisted. No, Jennifer said softly, setting the microphone down. You were chasing ratings. And that's disappointing. Don't pity me, Gayle snapped. I'm not pitying you, Jennifer replied. I'm disappointed in you.